Hello and welcome to the 2025 Weapons for Wellness event. My name is Iman Blow. I am the founder of the Aspire to Inspire initiative, a former award-winning student athlete, and the producer of this experience in partnership with USA Fencing. Weapons for Wellness is a proactive mental health event created for the fencing community with the purpose of mental health awareness, community engagement, and enrichment. In this interview, we have the pleasure of speaking to Anna Angelova, Olympian, referee, coach, and fencing parent. And she's going to give us some information about how that informs her perspective on the mental and the mental health side of sports and life. So thank you so much for being here, Anna.
Thank you for having me. Very big pleasure to speak to you. Got to know you last summer, and you're one of my favorite people.
Oh, I love to hear that.
And thank you for working on the mental health. It's a, I still think it's a new thing for many people, but it's a big impact on every aspect for athletes, parents, uh, referees, everything, coaches.
That's why I do these events. But I want to also, before we get into the back and forth, let people know a little bit more about you because you're very interesting and accomplished and have an incredibly unique and rich perspective on mental health or on fencing in general. So Anna is an assistant coach and a Olympian who came to Oregon Fencing Alliance after a highly successful career of foil fencing and coaching in her native country, Bulgaria. Over her many years as a coach, she's trained many Portland area students and also worked with national competitors and international competitors. She was a member of the Bulgarian national fencing team from 1985 to 1999, and in 2001 served as the team captain. She also competed in foil in the Summer Olympic Games in the USA in Atlanta in 1996 and was named Bulgaria's Fencer of the Year in 1997. Previously, she taught fencing in her home country, and now she has joined Oregon Fencing Alliance since 2000. And she has also gained her referee license and has been a referee for many years, highly rated in both foil and saber, in addition to coaching not only the students at the club, but also her own son, Vassal, who trains with her and is a nationally ranked cadet fencer. Welcome. So you have a lot of different titles within this community. But before we get into the specifics, I always like to start with the general question of what was your introduction to mental health? And then what was your introduction to mental hygiene? And just to specify, mental health is just the general topic of mental health, but mental hygiene is how you improve or support your mental health to ensure that you're healthy and happy and doing as well as you can. So what would be your introduction to those two topics?
First, I just want to say in general, we're ex-commoners country. On the Eastern Bloc, we don't talk a lot. It's a, I don't want to say taboo topic, but people don't talk about mental health at all. It's, we don't talk about this stuff. And when I was in college, there was a very important tournament that I supposed to qualify for the World Championship in uh, Lyon, France. And the first time I start experiencing um, need of mental health, or I found out more about it, was I got hurt. I had to have surgery on my knee, and at one point you are on the top, and then suddenly all your life change. And as in Bulgaria, we had a special hospital for athletes, and I had the pleasure meeting psychologists there, sports psychologists, which was very new. People didn't believe in these things. They thought that this role, it's somebody put this person there because they're somebody's person to have a salary. And this was my first interaction. It was before my Olympic qualifiers, maybe 4 or 5 years before that. And this was my first interaction with acknowledging that people need mental help, or simply it was replaced by the way we talk to friends. Sometimes we don't realize that this actually it's an outlet, and it's a type of, they replace the person that we need to talk to and guide us. So this was my first interaction when I was very much mentally down, thinking about, like, my life, it's over, like that's all I know, it's fencing. And there were other times I'm going through something very impactful for me, like I'm feeling for my son, I already shared to you, and we're still in a very interesting situation. But one thing, time heals, but you need to be able to express yourself and share it with professional. Friends don't do the job of the professional. They do help, but it's just a stepping stone to healing.
I think in your answer you kind of had both of those components where you were fortunate to be positioned with that formal help when you reached a low in your life, physically and
Yes,
mentally. But you also mentioned that supplement that, not everyone has access to professional mental health. But culturally, even though, like you said, a lot of times, especially older generations or people in different parts of the world may not speak about mental health or the idea that there could be something wrong emotionally or mentally, having those outlets to speak to those people is still like a form of that health and a form of that hygiene,
absolutely.
to be just telling someone that you don't feel well today and having those open conversations, to just help you along the way, especially if, not just through the devastating moments, but even just a hard day, being able to talk to someone can be something that helps you move on and makes you feel supported.
Yes.
I
I
wanted to ask you, you've told me this before, but for the interview, what your introduction was to fencing. And then now you as a parent, being a fencer and being in all these different positions within fencing, what was your goal for your child to start fencing? So first, how did you get into it? And then when you were choosing to have your child fence, what was the decision like for you? What was the mindset and intention?
First, I was very much into activities like sports primary. I was really good at school too. I went to a mathematical Olympics and stuff like this, but I was more interested in sports, and I was pretty good at everything I was doing. I was a good athlete. I was fast. I was just good material, what you say. I'm not evaluating myself. I know from my coaches and everybody that were involved in my growth. One of my friends at school just have returned from Morocco, and her father was a math teacher in the sports school. This is what we have in Eastern Europe. We have special schools that allow you to travel and are very supportive of your career as an athlete, young athlete. And I wasn't in school like that. Eventually, I have, but my friend's father was teaching there, and she got introduced to the sport of fencing, which was not very popular. I knew exactly what it means. I knew it involved swords. I was kind of tomboyish when I was growing up, and she, my friend Nadia, she said, "Do you want to come check out what it is?" And I was like, "Okay." So we went there, and one of the coaches was explaining. That stuck to my head, corps à corps, and it's referred in French. And since then, I know what corps à corps means. And but they were talking about the sport of fencing, explaining some of the fencing actions, which was, I don't think I understood much from the beginning. And also, if you remember at the Athena project last summer, Ola was doing some measurements for the kids. This is a very common way of measuring how the kids are progressing. And this is exactly what they were having that particular day. Like a long jump, high jump, they have certain things that they
Like
measure.
Looking
And
at different athletic
yeah, and of course
metrics.
I blow all the coaches away, and I returned, and this was it. I just that was my thing. I was in a team for handball. I was a goalie at that time, and my coach came to my parents and start convincing them like how good I'm gonna be and things like this. So my parents just let me choose, and I'm stuck with fencing since.
So, what led to you choosing it for your child as well? So obviously you knew of fencing and you were within the fencing community already by the time you became fencing age. But what was your thought process behind putting him into fencing and putting him into fencing within the U.S.?
Well, I loved fencing so much. It gave me so much. Um, and I always feel like it channeled me in the right directions, taught me valuable life lessons. So in first, this was my goal, and for him being active. So I didn't really force him to do it, but I didn't have much resources. My mom was always here to help, and my mother-in-law, but I didn't have much resources to sign him for, other things. And since he's there with me, he loved playing the warm-up games, dodgeball or like sharks and minnows, things like this. And it was really funny because he would play the warm-up games and then he's like left the building, like he doesn't want to do anything. um I really wish he would have done it, but I never wanted to force him. He did experience other sports too, and he loved soccer, he loved basketball. And one day, I think when he got a little bit older, like when he was 7-ish, um, I think he started feeling that he had to share me with other kids. He started to understand a little more, I guess. And when I'm giving compliments to my students, I think he felt left out. So he wanted to join the footwork. So every time I would give a compliment, Iman, beautiful lunch, very nice, good form, perfect balance. And he would push everybody out of the way. It's like, what about me? So this was the first lessons for him that he has to grow and mature, and learn that if you want to be in any sport, you have to, or not only sport but activity, you have to be acknowledging that there are other people around you and you're not the center of the attention. Since he's a single child, I think this was a very like opening uh, process for me. Like it gave me open door for him to share me with other people. Before I had him, I always referred to my students as my kids. So when I talk to other parents, they always like, how many kids do you have? And I'm like, no, those are my students. I love them so dearly. They're my kids. So and I think this also helped because he felt that I love other kids, and he had to share me with other people. I he was lefty from the start. We like me and my husband are not lefties. I always wanted him to be in a sport. My husband is a accomplished rower. Another thing I was thinking, Mario Zagunis, her parents are rowers. This is how I met them through my husband.
Hmm.
And I was thinking like, I'm a fencer and my husband is a rower. There is something he had to, he had it. And very much he's very tall. He's always being in the bigger side, and people treat him as older. So he had to encounter a lot of, um, you know, challenges. Let's say, like there is a person that's shorter than him, and people are like, oh, and then oh, but he's 3 years older than this person. Like, this
Hmm.
person is 3 years older than my son, which is two
When
heads
competing.
up. So it was, the sport was very important for him. The fencing was very important because he was teaching him other stuff
Like
than,
life skills.
yeah. And
I
also,
guess.
are we talking about mental health? I think as younger the kids are and don't understand what's going on, it's a mental accomplishment to learn how to deal pretty much with this.
Yeah, and like learn how to lose, learn how to work hard, learn how
Yeah.
to share,
And eventually I was hoping he would like fencing. So
not
he
just
did
like playing the
because he
game.
was good at it and he
I guess
liked it.
touching on what you were saying, what do you think the role of a fencing parent is? And as you, someone who is a coach, and you're also a referee, and you have that experience being a high level Olympic athlete, how do you best support your fencers' success?
It's not easy. And as you said, like it's very difficult sometimes to separate parenting from coaching. It's not, I would say don't teach your own kids. It's still big thing. Like we're still going through stuff, but it helps you grow, it helps you mature, um, it helps you feel more accomplished if you suppress the urge to yell, to discipline. But working with the kids, I see a lot of parents lately. I don't know if it's because they see on TV and it's a 6 years old kid, 7 years old kid. Parents are acting like this is the world championship or the Olympics. Um, Parents need to be supportive of their kids. I was busy with other kids, and I was fortunate enough to have my colleagues work one on one with my son. And what I learned from being a fencing parent, not easy to separate because I was, it's a mixture of being a ref, being parent, being fencer, and being a coach. So I was growing myself. I was trying to find the, am I the parent right now? Am I the coach right now? How do you distinguish these two? Um, so for the parents in the beginning, they have to support their kids. They cannot put pressure. I see this every day. I try to talk to a lot of the parents and explain to them that this kid, it's a process. You have to allow the process work its thing. You can't make the world champion right now. I know you are anxious to see it, but you're gonna have to be patient and support them. This is the most important thing. When they lose, you support them and explain. It's a lot of talking, it's a lot of hugging and cuddling, and it's gonna be okay. Next time you'll be fine. Next time, next time. That's a big phrase. Next time, next time. I mean, you can relate to this. You know exactly what it is. So parents need to be very supportive and don't um, don't I don't know what the word is, but um, don't stress out your kids. Let them enjoy it. Let them learn. Fencing, it's a really good sport because you learn new things every time. Accomplishing one simple action, it you feel achieved. You feel like you're getting wings. So and there are a lot of these moments. So parents just have to be happy. And I probably sound cliche, but this is no other way of saying it. Be positive. Even when it's a negative result, you have to be positive.
I know, especially as an athlete, the mental side of the sport's really important, and adding the fear of like
It starts from the
disappointment or
beginning.
your
It
parents being
starts from the
upset or
beginning.
them having a certain reaction to the loss can, for some
Yeah.
athletes, make it even harder to succeed because they're afraid of if they fail, what will happen?
Yes.
Will I still, be supported by my
Yeah.
coach or by my friends or by my teammates or by my parents? I wanted to go into something I think you can specifically touch on. I know particularly on online or even, at tournaments, there can sometimes be a frustration between parents and referees and conversations around, you know, refereeing being not up to par with the level of a competition, or referees making wrong calls and ruining tournaments for their children, or their children feeling like they can't just go out there and try their best because of the lack of consistent or the lack of accurate refereeing. And so as someone who both is a referee and a coach, and then, additionally, you are a fencing parent on the other side, what is your approach to that? What do you think, for a parent who might be concerned about refereeing or how to help their child navigate the situation? What would you think your recommendations would be? What are your thoughts on these dynamics that go on that really are part of like the both the mental and the physical, strategic side of being able to succeed in fencing?
First, as I said, parents need to be supportive. The more I grew into this subject, the more I realized that parents have to back off. They have to let the coaches do their job. Parents want to be supportive. They attack the refs. They put wrong ideas in the kids' head. Many times I see kids come and they are like, "You're the enemy." They don't say anything, but I can sense. As a referee, I always try to joke with them, or, if I have to clip the mascot, for example, I say, "Okay, $5." I try to warm them up, and I try them to feel like I'm a normal person. I'm not here to get you. But I think some parents are very competitive, and they put wrong idea in the kid's head. So I think parents should try to stay as much as possible away from the interacting with the referees, because the kids don't realize they feel supported, they feel, but they also feel the stress from what the parent transferred to the referee. Not only this, we're developing new referees all the time. And I'm an experienced referee, but still it gets to me when parents act that way. So referees also need, mental support. People don't realize that. We take a lot of abuse. I try always to explain to the parents, and communication. Communication is very important. When you are a referee, you cannot just shut down everybody, or I'm right, you're wrong. If you're less experienced, what parents say or coach say can affect your calls. Or if you're more experienced, there are people that would, there are referees, unfortunately, that would try to, make the wrong call on purpose just to punish the kids, which is not okay. Kid is not, it's not kids' fault that parents are very aggressive, very impatient. That's the word, impatient. It's a big process. You cannot make a world champion and Olympic champion at 8 years old. It's a process of building. You are putting the base of, gradually growing your kid in fencing. Um,
I think
so
something else I think I'd want your perspective on me from being a competitive athlete, competing internationally and in the Olympic trials, from being a young fencer to an older fencer, I was taught not to necessarily argue with the referee. But also, I felt like I learned that the referee is very much a part of the bout, sometimes more than people would like, and
big.
some weapons are a lot more ambiguous than is comfortable. But could you speak on just that relationship between referee and fencer and the benefits of, in terms of competing and having the mindset of the referee is a part of the match, they are one of the components, and building a relationship with the referee can impact the way you're able to perform on the strip. Not in a way that's like illegal or the referee's cheating for you, but how maybe respectful or positive engagement versus maybe negative, critical, or condescending engagement can maybe unconsciously influence the dynamics in that bout, the feeling of that bout.
First, I think a good referee should be invisible, which is very difficult. I like fashion. I like look nice, so I cannot be invisible. But in metaphor, it's you have to. You're part of the bout. You're right, but you have to be invisible. You're there to judge. A lot of referees, it's also personality. For me, no matter what the fencer does, unless it's dangerous and make the environment unsafe, I'm very tolerant to a lot of things. I feel my job, maybe this is mixture of being a parent, coach, teacher, it's to educate the kids. I'm there to help, which is not okay when you're a referee, you don't help the fencer with their action. But I feel obligated to explain and to support, not help, support the kids to understand that they have to relax, and I'm there to judge what they present to me. I'm not there to get them. It's again a personality from the referee. Some people are there for the wrong reason to ref, and that's very sad. So I've had you're pretty passionate passionate fencer, and I loved it because I was very similar. But if you have the right person to calm you down and to tell you you're here to fence, not to kill the other person literally, you're here to present your best. And if your best it's not good enough, this should be good enough for you. If you leave everything on the strip, if you tried everything, there is no guarantee you're gonna win. But you have to learn to focus on your fencing, not on the referee. Even if I'm very tolerant, I told you, there are fencers that would be very argumentative with me. Even when I make the right call, they would ask, what is the action? You have to, if you're, first of all, you have to evaluate this situation as you're not focused on the bout, you're focused on the other factors that are uncontrollable. You have to control what you can control. And arguing or trying to ask questions, some people are very sassy or very, they try to be nice on purpose, forcefully. I don't mind those stuff, but again, it's up to the referee's personality. Some people don't like this. Some people want to show the fencer who is the boss, which is wrong. You are invisible again. And referees should be having conversation. They should listen. They shouldn't be like, I'm right, you're wrong. You want to hear the other person's perspective. But it has to be done in a manner that it doesn't affect the other fencer, because it's unfair. If you're having too long of a conversation, you're affecting other person's momentum. So lots of the fencers does this on purpose to interrupt the bout. So there are a lot of factors, and having experience in refereeing, being exposed to situation, you grow as a referee, you grow as a fencer, you grow as a coach. You never stop. It's a growth for every person. As long as you desire to get better at it, not for the wrong reasons, just for the love of the sport and for the love to serve there. That's another thing I forgot to say in the beginning. We as a referee are there to serve the fencers and the fencing community. And the parents should be feeling the same way. If they support their kid, they also need to support the around people, not only your kids.
So from what I'm hearing from you, it seems that, your thoughts are that referees should be invisible, but you are mentioning that it does take a certain amount of practice and training and
Oh yeah.
intentionality to not let the fact that fencers and coaches and everyone else do not see you as invisible and interact with you as a person, but to not let your feelings and emotions and and perspectives get in the way of your objectivity. But I think it's important to mention that that's you as a coach, but you as a referee, but you did say different referees have different feelings about that. So maybe just as an
Yes,
athlete and a coach to be mindful and possibly think about being flexible and understanding what type of referee do you have? How can you engage with them in a way that's going to make them as neutral or as thoughtful as possible when they're
yes,
refereeing you, and their ability to really look at the bout and consider each fencer equally, or at least consider you equally.
yes.
I would have my round out question, my last question that I also love to ask everyone. And this is formatted towards fencing parents for this conversation. The question would be, what is the most valuable thing you learned about supporting your athlete's mental health and mindset from your perspective as a parent, and then supporting yourself as a fencing parent? What would be the most valuable thing you think you've learned?
Honestly, you're there to love and support your kids, but I think you're gonna have to have a special person to work with them. Um, you need a different type of support. You love your kids to death. You will do anything to them. My son, if I say something, he's like, okay. But if you say the same thing to him, it's different. He accepted different. He hurt himself. It was right before COVID, I think. And I have a degree in kinesiotherapy, um, and um, I was trying to help him. I know exactly what exercise to do. I give him guidelines. And every time he argues with me, just like we take lessons, I took him to a specialty place, and he was fortunate to have the best people and the best support there. But it was really funny because they were asking him to do exactly the same things and exactly the same guidelines. Every time he would look at me because I've already said the same thing, and I would roll my eyes. It was hilarious, but this is it's something you cannot help. Um, you need a different individual to talk to them. They're not gonna hear you the same way they're gonna hear their coach, their therapist. I mean, it's called therapist, right? Even if it's at young age, um, things that their friends would say to them are gonna get into their soul differently than when you said or grandparents said. So my conclusion is, don't try to help your kids. Let somebody else do it. It's not because you are not capable of, it's just impossible because that's um, the relationship you have with them, the way that you grow, they grow with you, and you support them. That's it. You support them in the appropriate way. Have the specialist to the help. I think everybody should have sports psychology person to work with every club available if you need to reach out to them. This is very important. I graduated National Sports Academy. The first 2 years we had to learn anatomy, psychology, um, biomechanics, biophysics. The first 2 years we learn all that. And then we start learning the theory and methodics of the sport practice and physical education. So you cannot be a coach before you know or have a certain base in anatomic physiology and psychology. So in our team, we were fortunate to have a person that we can talk to, but this was not always available. This was something new, it was experimental. And now I realize that this is one of the most important thing we had to turn to. Not masseuse, we needed a person that talked to. So the best advice for parents is be a parent, be supportive, be a cheerleader. Let the coaches do their job, and let the special people do their special thing.
So what I'm hearing from you, and it touches on what you said in the beginning, it's, you know, you have your role as a fencing parent and you want to be supportive, and then you want to find other people who can be supportive in their particular roles. Because,
Yes.
you know, your kid's only going to listen so much to you as a parent.
Not
But
so much, zero. They don't listen. The older they get, the more rebellion they get.
I don't know. As a kid myself, I'd have to say maybe not. I'd have to be on the side of the kids. But I just want to thank you so much for your time and for giving us all of your wisdom and experience in this conversation today.
I hope um, whoever is interested to see our interview, um, to get some feedback out of it. I have a I've spoke only from experience, and again, this is my thoughts. It's not science, but it's not a big science. You can definitely understand that your role as a parent is to be a parent.